Yeah, so as Angela was saying, we're going to be talking about writing a proposal, writing your abstract or proposal, different terminology used, but it kind of means the same thing. I'm just going to share my screen because I have some slides here. That one, I think. Okay, hopefully you can see that now. So yeah, so Angela said that we're going to talk about LIANZA, certainly, because that's the conference coming up. That's the big conference coming up. But I'm going to talk a little bit more generally as well. We've got a few conferences, actually very lucky this year. We've got a few interesting conferences coming up in our area, information libraries, cultural heritage generally. Ooh, it's a chat. Oh, thank you, Laura. Um, uh, yeah, so we've got a few conferences coming up. So I'm going to just talk through some of those and give some general advice and also more specific advice for each of those conferences. So yeah, so this is what we're going to talk about. I'm going to mention some of the conferences that we've got coming and when they are, and then about how we respond. Yeah, so when there's a call for proposals put out, how we respond and how we should prepare our abstract or proposal. Tend to, you know, abstracts perhaps are a little bit more formal, a little bit more structured. Proposals a little bit more open-ended. I think LIANZA have said proposal. Yeah, sorry, I've just got it in front of me. So that's a proposal, but you might see the term abstract used, or even contribution sometimes as well. And they all have different requirements. So we just need to understand what the conference organizers are after, I think. All right. So first of all, here we've got coming up, of course, LIANZA conference. Very exciting to have that back and to have a big old conference again after the years of restrictions with COVID. And of course, that's in October, end of October, beginning of November. And that's the website in case you don't know where to find it. We've also got coming up the Rails conference. Okay, so this is, and we are organizing it. So we're organizing it here at Herenga, Waka, Vic, Victoria. I think we're allowed to say that now again. Victoria University of Wellington. And that's, again, you know, they're all at the end of the year, unfortunately. There's a bit of a log jam of conferences at the end of this year. So that's 30th of November, 1st of December, a 2-day conference. And there I've given you the website there. And we also have NDF. So the National Digital Forum, and I don't know how many people know about NDF. We'll talk a little bit about it. Unfortunately, they haven't got a lot of information up yet about their conference, but they have got when it's going to be. So save the date. And that's the 20th of November to the 22nd of November. And that'll be again in Wellington. It's held at Te Papa. I think it's going to be held at Te Papa. Last year they had a virtual conference. I think it's going to be a full or maybe a hybrid conference this year. As I say, not many details at the moment. So watch that space, I think. All right, so here's the website for LIANZA, okay, telling you all about that. So let's talk about perhaps that one first. So this is going to be held in Christchurch, and yeah, we'll have a look at some of the requirements in a bit more detail. But just to note that they are asking for full papers as well as lightning talks and workshops and panels and korero. So lots of opportunities to get involved there. Yeah. And the theme, oh, it's not on this one, sorry. Oh, yes, there we are. Na'aho, weaving our threads of knowledge together. So that's the theme of this year's conference there. And, you know, the LIANZA conference is a really great opportunity to for librarians and information professionals from across our sector to get together and really find out what everybody's doing. Yeah, we've had, as I say, with the restrictions from COVID, we've had a few years of being quite keeping to ourselves and not having as many face-to-face networking and opportunities to meet our colleagues. So this is a really great opportunity to get together, find out what everybody's doing, be inspired, lots of great keynote speakers, and also contribute. Yeah, it's not just about taking, but it's contributing to conversations about the future of our profession. So lots of networking opportunities and learning about effective practice from across the sector. And if you give a presentation, getting feedback on your own work and your own ideas. We can compare our own practice and what we're doing in our own work with that of other people, and that is so valuable. It's really invaluable opportunity, because it can make you question what you're doing or how you're doing things, and think about, is there a better way that we might be operating here? And I think, giving a presentation, having to explain to others outside your organization, perhaps even from outside your sector, yeah, because obviously the beauty of LIANZA is that you have people from all kinds of different types of libraries. So explaining how and why you do things to people who are perhaps not familiar with your work can be quite challenging, but also help you see things from an outsider's perspective, and makes you think about, well, how do I justify this? What other ways might we be able to do that? So, there is a huge wealth of experience from our colleagues who attend LIANZA, and they can give us really valuable, feedback and advice on our developments, our innovations, maybe our future plans. So I think that's a really important part of LIANZA. Okay, let's move on to, so Rails, as I say, organized by us this year. I'm the conference chair, so if you want any further information, get in touch with me. Again, we are having papers, presentations, lightning talks, panels, posters. There's also a doctoral consortium. So if there are any PhD students out there who want a bit of advice or a bit of guidance, we are having a doctoral consortium. It's probably a little bit more academic, a bit more of an academic profile than the LIANZA conference. So the papers are mainly presenting the results of research projects. But we are really open to evidence-based practitioner work too. We want to build that expertise within our practitioner community, our colleagues, around evidence-based practice. And as I say, we also have lightning talks and posters. So if you're a bit not quite sure and you just want to dip your toe in the water, we've got those kinds of opportunities as well. This is the first time that Rails has had lightning talks. And really they are aimed at the practitioner talk. And perhaps also students who are doing, any students out there doing your research work, research projects, would like to present. That's really what the lightning talks are aimed at. Also, posters are a good opportunity there. Not to say that those can't be full papers as well. If you're feeling, you really want to get out there and present your results, then very open to full papers from practitioners or students as well. So that's Rails, and then we have NDF. So as I say, bit of a watch this space here. They do have a YouTube channel. So if you want to look at the kind of papers and the kinds of topics covered by NDF, you can, well, they've got examples on their website. They've got videos on their website from last year. It was a virtual conference, so they did recordings there. But they've also got a YouTube channel. And again, they do full papers and they do lightning talks. Really focused on digital cultural heritage. Yeah. So looking at how we can connect with our communities, and digital resources generally, management and promotion of digital cultural heritage resources. So because of this kind of lack of detail about NDF at the moment, I'm going to focus mostly on LIANZA and Rails when I'm giving examples. But as I say, I think some of the points I make can be hopefully apply to any conference that you decide you would like to attend and submit for. Okay, so here's an overview of the steps, really. So once we, step number one, once we've decided we want to attend a conference, you have to read the call carefully. Yeah, so it's important that your submission matches the topics requested. But if you have an idea that doesn't seem to match or doesn't seem to fit in, it's always a good idea to contact the organizers and see if they would consider it, if they think it would fit in, if they can see that there's a space for you in this conference. And actually, some conferences are a bit more flexible. And often it's kind of an umbrella term, and you can usually fit your paper in there or your presentation in there, but don't assume that without checking. So if we look at LIANZAs, so I say it's Na'aho, weaving our threads of knowledge together and linking the past, present, and future. We come together to innovate, engage, and transform our communities. Yeah. So to share innovation and developments, and this is goes into a little bit more detail. The page goes on. Do have a look around it, and you can see that they've got these 5 key themes or areas, the sub themes, and by clicking on each of those, it gives you a little bit more information there. Yeah. So consider where your proposal might fit into our sub themes, and you can see they're quite broad and general to library and information services. So I'm sure that if you have an idea, you'll be able to fit your paper in there somewhere. Rails. So this is Rails, and here we're talking about it takes a village. Yeah, so partnerships and co-design. So we've got a bit of a blurb about what we mean by that, and note at the bottom here, we do say the theme should be broadly interpreted. Yeah, we encourage all types. Yeah. So broadly interpreted. So generally that means that if you've got a good idea that doesn't really fit in, you probably, have a go anyway. Yeah. And further on, we've got a list of kinds of topics that you might consider. Yeah. Okay, number 2, meet the specifications. Always a good idea. So the call for papers or proposals or contributions will generally include details about the length and style of the presentation, that's expected, and what you need to do to get onto the agenda. Often several options. So as I say, full papers, lightning talks, posters, panels, workshops, breakout groups, lots of different kinds. So just make sure that you know what they're looking for each of those different types of paper, because each of them will have different requirements or may have different requirements. Not always, actually. Not LIANZA this year. They just want your ideas, which is great. So this is the LIANZA one. Yeah. You want the title and the full proposal, 150 words. It's not a lot, so you've really got to grab their attention. Yeah, you've got 150 words to really make your proposal shine. Yeah. And then for Rails, it's a bit more formal because it is a little bit more academic, as I say. So we've said you've got 20 minutes, and then that's what we're expecting. Yeah, so it's a PDF document to be uploaded to the submission site, and we're asking for a structured abstract format there. Yeah. Deadlines, very important. You have to meet your deadlines. So LIANZA, 8 p.m. Monday, the 18th of April. Yeah. And for Rails, Monday, the 24th of July, I guess midnight, because we haven't specified a time like LIANZA, but midnight on Monday, the 24th of July. So a little bit longer for that one. So you've got a month or so, not quite a month, to think about presenting and submitting to LIANZA. NDF, as I say, not sure yet. So we have to meet the deadlines. Sometimes conferences, just generally, neither of these two do this actually, but sometimes you have two deadlines. So if it's a very formal conference, you may have a deadline to submit a proposal. And if your proposal is accepted, you'll have another deadline to present the full paper. So some conferences require the full paper before the conference, and then they put them in, proposal proceedings. Yeah, neither of these are asking for that. So that's one thing you don't have to worry about. For Rails, we are saying that if you would like to write up your presentation as a paper, we've made arrangements with JALIA, which is the Journal of the Australian Library and Information Association. So we have an arrangement for them, but there's a whole different set of deadlines for that, but there is that option. But both LIANZA and Rails just have that one deadline. But please be clear about the expectations. Now, normally, and certainly with academic conferences, they give people a little bit longer. So they often push back the deadline. People panic and say, oh, there's no way, I really want to come to this conference, and there's no way I can meet this deadline. And very often they'll give people another couple of weeks, but you can't rely on that. And I'm not sure whether LIANZA has even contemplated doing that. Rails, we'll see how we get on. You can't rely on it though. Okay, so what do we put into these proposals? How do we write it up? So preparing the abstract and the proposal. All right. It's generally your proposal will determine whether or not you are invited to speak or accepted to speak at the conference. So it's absolutely important that you submit a very clear, concise, and interesting. That's probably the most important part. Yeah, it has to be an interesting proposal or abstract. First, just a word about titles. So the title is your first opportunity to grab your reader's interest and invite the person to read on, or to invite them to think about actually attending your session. Yeah. So what makes for a good title? Yeah. I'm quite a fan, as you can see here, a bit of a theme going on. These are some of my titles. These are actually, no, some of them were conference papers. The first one wasn't, I don't think, but the other two, I think, probably were conference papers. I'm quite a fan of a kind of like a quirky, eye-catching first few words, then a colon, then a more sensible title that actually tells people what it's about. Yeah. So some of my examples there. So a few tips on titles. You need to introduce the topic. People need to know what your paper is going to be about, but it should capture their interest. It should be relatively brief. So you can see there that LIANZA on that form, it says 10 words maximum. And I'd say anyway, 12 words is probably about ideal. Yeah, so 10 to 12 words, but for LIANZA, you need to keep it to 10. The other important thing is that it aids discoverability. Okay, we're all about discoverability these days, so make sure you get your keywords in there. Yeah. So if people are searching for something, through a search engine, they find it straight away. Yeah. Writing the proposal then. So overall, your proposal is a brief description of your presentation, and it should provide your reader with, an accurate picture of what what you're going to cover. So for LIANZA, it's 150 words. So as I say, that's not a lot. So you've got, you haven't got a lot of words there to grab the reader's attention and the committee's attention first and foremost. Yeah. Rails a little bit longer, 500 words, but that's for the full paper. For the lightning talks and other things, it's shorter, but a structured proposal of 500 words. So even 500 words isn't an awful lot when you're trying to convince people that they want to hear what you have to say. Because basically it's a sales tool. Yeah, you're selling your ideas first to the conference organizers and then to the conference delegates or audience. So you need to make it as fascinating, as exciting, as enticing as possible, because clearly the abstract helps the attendees decide which presentation they're going to go to. Yeah, they've got all these different presentations going on in parallel streams very often. So you need to describe accurately and invitingly what people can expect from your session. So a well-written proposal makes it very clear what you're going to do, what your aim is, what your intention is, and it's also well organized. Yeah. And I'd say that the most effective proposals probably start with the most important information first. Yeah. What's it all about? Yeah. Write in plain English. Don't be overly academic, even for academic conferences, because lots of different people will be reading it. It may not be their area of research. You need to explain concepts in plain English. Don't use jargon. Try not to use too many acronyms, especially without spelling them out. And you may even need to define terms. And I think conference organizers are not really looking for you to do clever writing, yeah, or that you can wax lyrical about a topic. They're looking for evidence that you can give an effective presentation, and preferably an entertaining presentation as well. So you need to write very clearly. Accessibility is really important, so that it can be understood. And also there's a point to make there that the program committee will be looking at a lot of presentations. Yeah, and a lot of proposals. So you really want to grab their attention and make it easy for them. Yeah, make it easy for them to see what you're going to be talking about, why it's important. It's like you're likely to be rejected if they can't understand what you're talking about, or they have to search through your proposal to find the key ideas. As I say, you have got limited words, so you might want to actually save your actual results or your conclusion or your key points to the actual presentation and use those limited words to give a bit of a teaser. Yeah, outline what you're going to be talking about, but not what you'll actually be saying. Yeah, so you outline your topic and its importance, and maybe it's for a particular group or library or service provider. Make that very clear. Explain it. Yeah, a little bit of background. The fourth point is really the crux of it. Yeah, that is the most important aspect. Why should people be interested? Ultimately, what is the audience going to get? Yeah, what will the audience get from giving you their precious time to listen to you? What will they be able to take away from your presentation? As I say, I think that's the most important part. And obviously a really important point is to link to the theme. We talked about the theme of the conference, where your work might fit into that. But link to it by maybe using words from the proposal. Yeah, you're not going to be accused of plagiarism. Just highlight those key words.
Are you able to save it to Magic and send me the the reason I want to do that is because I think this is a really good example. And I've just got Corinna to do this, but she hasn't done. I
Sorry,
just want
somebody
how you've
not
done
on
that.
mute there.
I just want them to use this.
Karen, thank you. All right, sorry. So yes, so look for keywords in the call for the proposals and use those. Yeah. Okay. So what's the program committee going to be looking for? They want, clearly stated purpose, your aims, how it fits with the conference theme, topicality, yeah, timeliness, what other people can learn. As I say, I think that's probably the most important part. How is it going to contribute to our understanding of a particular area, of a particular topic? How interesting is it? Creativity, something eye-catching maybe, and perhaps also creative approaches to a situation or a problem or an issue that you've been facing, or ways of managing those challenges that we all face in our day-to-day work. They'll also be looking at whether your proposal or whether your topic is of niche interest or is of general interest. And LIANZA is looking for both, of course, yeah, because we are a profession, but within the profession we have particular subgroups and different sectors. So looking for both there. And something eye-catching, try to have something eye-catching to attract and intrigue the audience if you can. Okay, so once you've written up your proposal, you need to submit it. There are usually submission systems. So this is the one for LIANZA. The Rails one isn't available yet, but there'll be a conference submission process and system to go through there. So you need to sign up for that and try to remember your password. I've already forgotten mine, so that's not and so you have to download the template, which is a Word document, fill it in, and then upload it to the submission site. Straightforward, really. Okay, and I'm just going to finish off with some tips, and then happy to answer any questions or to start a discussion. See if you can find some previous examples. Yeah, you can look, for example, usually with conferences, they have a list of, a booklet of proposals. So have a look at some of those. Ask a colleague or friend to read your submission. Look over it for you. Proofread it carefully. Maybe even use Grammarly or something like that. Stay within the word limit, of course, and submit on time. Yeah, because as I say, you can't rely on the common practice of deadlines being pushed back. Okay, so anything there that I've skated over that you'd like more information on, or any points that you'd like to talk about, I'm very happy to take questions. Some in chat.
There was a question in the chat about can you submit more than one proposal, which I just answered for LIANZA. It might be different for Rails, but on the I did put in a link there to where all the proposal processes, and there's quite a bit of information down the bottom there. You can submit up to 2 proposals or be participate in a maximum of 2 presentations.
Yeah, thank you for that. And it's also with Rails as well. We don't actually put a limit on it. We're a very small community. Rails is really, and it says that actually on the website, we're a very small and friendly conference. So it's basically the departments of libraries, and information studies like ours here at Vic in Australasia. And there aren't that many of us, so it's quite a small conference, and we welcome, people often contribute to more than one paper. So no problem with that. And you could do a paper, you can do a poster, you could do a lightning talk. Yeah, we don't put any limits on that. And I also saw a comment from NZLLA. So the law librarians are also having a conference in August, also at Vic. So a little plug for that. So thank you for mentioning that. Okay, so there's a question about, oh, sorry, Hannah. I'll just get through these on the chat, and then I will come to you if that's all right. If you want to show media like videos alongside your presentation, should you indicate in your proposal? I think it's a good idea. It can, add something. It might make people sit up a bit and say, oh, that looks really interesting. So yeah, I would mention it. And also it'll make, it might ensure that you're in a suitable venue as well. Although, most, just about all conference venues now have, are all singing, all dancing. So you shouldn't have a problem with that. But I think it is a good idea because it might make people think, oh, that would, that's a nice addition. Yeah. So it's probably a good idea. So Louise, how do you know if your presentation should be 10 minutes or 20 or 30 minutes? It should tell you on the conference website. So on the Rails website, for example, I'm not sure if it was on any of those slides, but it does say presentations will be 20 minutes with 10 minutes for Q&A. So generally, 20 minutes is about the time for a full paper. Lightning talks can vary. I can't remember what we've said now on Rails, but they can be, usually from 5 to 10 minutes, I'd say. But it will tell you that. And if you're not sure, ask the conference organizers, because that's really important. It's really important to know that.
The information is there on the proposals page for LIANZA
as well. Yeah. And they will, when you get accepted, you'll probably have that information given to you again in an email. Yeah. So Hannah.
Kia ora. I just had a question about whether if you had an idea for like a panel discussion, say, is that something that's usually more dictated by, say, the conference committee? Just because I had a idea around pay equity, it'd be quite cool to have all the different library groups talking about what's going on.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. No, you can propose a panel. Yeah, so you can propose it. They probably want to know, who would be involved and what their role would be. But you can propose that. So, or a workshop. So I'm doing a workshop at a conference very soon. I'm not sure if I'm ready for this, but for that, I gave quite a clear outline of, this is the format. Yeah, so we're going to have 5 minutes on this, 10 minutes on this, 10 minutes on this, 30-minute group discussion, 10 minutes, So you might want to talk about that as well. So maybe you'd have somebody to introduce the topic, each speaker speaking for whatever 5 minutes, and then a more general group discussion. So you might just want to, say who's gonna be there and what the format's going to be. Yeah. Yep. Any other questions? No? Well, oh, thought I heard something then.
Oh no, that was me. Sorry, it does not
Angela,
look like there's any more questions at the moment. But again, if people have further questions, they can email. Anne, are you okay to be emailed?
Yeah, absolutely. Clearly for the just a question on there. I'll come
Yes,
back to that.
there is.
Clearly for the organisation, you know, specific questions about the conference and what's expected, contact the conference organisers. Yeah, so obviously you can contact LIANZA office for any detailed questions about LIANZA conference. I'm very happy to answer any questions about Rails, as well as more general questions about, you know, proposal writing. So Tracy, what's a lightning talk session expected to look like? It's really just like any other talk, but shorter very often. Yeah. So it's often about kind of work in progress. So, or an idea that you've had, or something that, you know, you think, oh, I'm not sure I've got enough to say, or enough evidence, or enough, proof yet of what we're doing for a full paper, but it would make a good lightning talk. So it's just like a paper, but shorter very often. Yeah.
And LIANZA's lightning talk is a 10-minute session with question and answers in that time.
So you know, there are two types, two approaches to lightning talks. Again, there's some kind of moderator or facilitator, and you probably have, I don't know how many LIANZA are having, but maybe 3 speakers within a lightning talk session, and they all either they give their presentations one by one with questions in between, or they all give their presentations one after another, and then there's a general discussion at the end. So 2 approaches to that, 2 formats. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much for attending. And we hope to see these proposals rolling in.
And I'll just close with karakia, and thank you very much, Anne, for coming along. And I did put in the chat that if anyone wants LIANZA to promote their conferences, then just to email me at comms@lianza.org.nz, and we'll make sure that gets out.
Remember that.
yeah, it's helpful. So I'm just going to say the karakia now to close. Anuia, anuia, anuia kiti uru, tapanui, kia wātia, kia mama, te nākau, te tinana, te wairua, e te ara tangata, koia rā e rongo, whakairia aki ki ronga, kia tina, huie, taikie. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Just for those that did miss the first half, yes, the session is recorded and it will be up on LIANZA's YouTube channel, and we'll send links out as well. So thank you, and thank you once again, Anne. Bye now.